This is Animation Triad. As usual, I'm your host, Stu. The poet T.S. Eliot once wrote that April is the cruelest month. And sadly, for this year it seems so. For as you can see, my two good friends, Alex and Will, are not with us today. And sadly, they will not be with us for the foreseeable future. All I can say on the matter is, I'm sure they're in a much better place.
This is the weirdest game of hide-and-seek I've ever played. Stuart basically gave us these hiding spots, and he hit us pretty well. By the way, it sounded like you clonked your head pretty hard, Alex. How you feeling? Alex?
As I said, a much better place. Well, with those formalities out of the way, let's move on to our review. Now, did you figure out that puzzle I gave you last time? Let's see. The clues were that it came out in 1994 and was based upon the work of a famous European author. Any guesses? Well, if you guessed The Lion King, you'd be wrong. I mean, seriously, the answer's in the title of this video. No, it's not The Lion King. You see, since April is, as we established, a cruel month, I too shall be cruel. Today, we're reviewing The Princess and the Goblin. Strap in, initiates, and welcome to the Triad.
There's a power in every breath. There's a power in every note.
The story is about the adventurous Princess Irene. The princess is off playing in the woods when she is attacked by the goblin's pets. She is saved by a mining young warrior boy named Curty. They quickly become friends and get into lots of trouble. The goblins attack, and Irene must rely on her magic to save Curty and, in turn, the entire kingdom. Wow, that is a horrible summary. Thank you, IMBD, for being completely useless. So, I'll have to pick up the slack. The story does indeed center around Princess Irene, who wanders away from her nursemaid, Looty, who is constantly warning the young princess to be on the lookout for strange things.
Strange things. You never know when they might happen. Oh, now our father said, watch over her.
Oh, what sage advice! And clearly Looty is doing a real bang-up job of watching the princess. Because, as we all know, the best way to keep an adventurous young princess out of trouble is to take a nap instead of looking for her when she wanders off. As a quick aside, Looty is voiced by the actress Molly Sutton, best known for her portrayal of Mrs. Slocum from the British comedy series Are You Being Served? A show I have fond memories of watching with my parents when I was young. Sadly, she passed away in 2009. So, as a little honor to her memory, here's a clip of her work on the show. I hope you enjoy it.
Mr. Humphreys, leave my pussy alone.
Thinking back, a lot of those jokes clearly went over my head as a child. But I digress. So, despite Looty's due diligence, Princess Irene and her cat Turnip wander off and get chased into the forest by some strange creatures. She is soon surrounded, and all hope seems lost. But then, suddenly, the forest is filled with the sound of a song being sung by a young boy that goes a little something like this.
There's a power in every breath. There's a power in every note.
I'd like to say I'm sorry for subjecting you to that music again, but, I'd be lying. So the young boy's name is Curty, not Curty, as the stupid IMBD summary calls him. Yes, he is the son of a miner, and he does in fact work in the mine, but I wouldn't exactly call him a warrior. So, whatever. Yes, the song does drive off the creatures, which Curdy then informs us.
Everyone knows about the goblins and their pets, except people from the castle.
Because, why would the king and his heavily armed and trained knights need to know about a powerful enemy living underneath his kingdom that apparently attacks his subjects on a nightly basis? Anyway, Curdy takes Irene back to the castle where we discover that, surprisingly, Ludi is still searching for her by simply calling her name in a slightly annoyed tone.
Irene! Irene!
Now I say surprisingly, because when one loses the only heir to the kingdom's throne for what must have been at least half a day, heads would literally roll. As in, decapitation. But I digress. Irene runs back into the castle and tells Ludi all about the goblins and everything else, only to have Ludi brush her off and say that all that talk is nonsense. Which is odd, because Ludi is always telling her to be on the lookout for strange things. Character consistency, I hear you say? What's that? We are then treated to a really crappy special effect that is meant to suggest that magic is at play, but instead suggests that the sun is being reflected off the animator's watch. Take a look for yourself. The next day, after a scene where Ludi almost kills herself trying to put away some bed sheets, I mean seriously, take a look at this and tell me how she doesn't break her neck.
Oh, don't talk to me about goblins. They don't exist. Oh!
Bitch can take a fall, to say the least. So then Irene finds a small magic door in her bedroom and goes through it.
Magic door.
You're just in time for supper, dear.
Oh, come on, you know that would make this movie at least 100 times better. But seriously, she instead meets her so-called great-great-grandmother. And tell me, this scene doesn't seem at least a little sinister now that I've got you thinking about Coraline.
If you're really my great-great-grandmother, why haven't I been told about you?
Not everybody knows that I'm here.
You mean you're not a real person?
There's nothing to be frightened of. I'm not exactly a ghost, but I'm not real either.
You mean you're sort of magic?
No shit, Sherlock. Anyway, to make a long story short... Too late! Okay, Irene's grandmother then tells her that she will be there to help her should she need it, and then promptly pimps off. The movie then shifts to a scene of Curty heading to work with his father in the mines because this is the olden days, before things like child labor laws and worker safety were an issue.
But look out for those goblins. They're evil. If they want something, nothing will stop them. Not even your singing.
After working for a bit, Curdy's father, who is voiced by William Houghton, tells him to take a break. So Curdy takes a nap, only to wake up to discover that he's now all alone in the mine. He starts frantically looking for his father, who I'm sure is completely fine.
Eject! I can hold it. Pull up! No, I'm all right.
Just a little something for my hardcore Star Wars fanboys out there. If you get it, you got it. So Curdy then quite literally stumbles onto some goblins who then conveniently talk about their greatest weaknesses because plot convenience.
Hey, Glump, are you hurt?
No, I don't think so, Mump.
It only hit my head. Head? What a shame. 'Cause if it hit somewhere painful, you couldn't work. I'd have to report you to Prince Froglip, wouldn't I? And Prince Froglip, he does nasty things to people. What sort of things? What's the most sensitive part of your body? My feet, of course. Well, what would the Prince Froglip do with them, then? He stamps on your feet?
As a quick side note, the Goblin Mumph is voiced by Roy Kilmer, performing what would sadly be his last role. Roy Kilmer is best known for playing the father of Veruca Salt in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Does that add anything to the plot? No. I just like random trivia. Curdy continues to infiltrate the Goblin Kingdom and discovers the Goblin King discussing his evil plan. Let's take a listen, shall we?
You remind me of the babe. Babe with the power.
What power?
Power of voodoo. You do. Remind me of the babe.
I'm sorry, but when I see an opportunity to make a David Bowie reference, I take it. So, as this movie's Goblin King starts to explain his plan to flood the mine, thus killing all the miners, he is interrupted by the best part of the whole film. And now, my good ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Prince Froglip and his evil plan.
We should take revenge! We should move above ground, take them all prisoner, and bring them underground with us! I want to have them eating the dirt from under my fingernails!
Oh, Prince Froglip. The one part that makes this movie bearable to me. Why might that be? I mean, what with his obnoxious voice and over-the-top acting, surely I must find him quite annoying. You couldn't be further from the truth. I love this performance. I really do, because Prince Froglip is voiced by the late, great, post-punk English actor, writer, comedian, Rick Mayar. I have fond memories of Rick Mayar from the British sitcom The Young Ones, but the general American audience might know him better from the film Drop Dead Fred. I'm not going to be showing clips from that film because I'm not the biggest fan of that particular performance. So instead, I'll show you clips from a few of his things that I actually really enjoy.
I'm going shopping in the village, George's mother said to George on Saturday morning. So be a good boy and don't get up to mischief. Neil!
I should have had that
Look,
in it.
can you just wait a minute?
Hello, I come from God and he says...
So, you are the Christ, you're the great Jesus Christ. Prove to me that you're divine. Change my water into wine. That's all you need to do, and I'll know it's all true. Come on, King of the Jews.
Sycophant!
Why don't you like me?
Because you're a complete bastard.
Vivian, I'm being serious.
So am I. You're a complete bastard and we all hate you.
I find that rather difficult to believe.
I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's so worth it. Because personally, I think he would have made a terrific Joker. I mean, you can't do any worse than Jared Leto. Shots fired, my friends. Shots fired. Anyway, back to the film. So, Curdy then sneaks out of the Goblin Kingdom and runs into his father and tells him of the Goblin's plan. I would like to point out that why he was left alone in the mine is never once explained. Or even mentioned. Again. Ever. Whatever. We then cut to Princess Irene meeting her father, who is voiced by Joss Ackland, who you might know as Hans from the Mighty Duck series. You know, the old guy who gave them the skates and whatnot, helped inspire them. Or as King Arthur in A Kid in King Arthur's Court. Here, his character is credited as King Papa by IMBD.
You got a gun up in your waist, please don't shoot up the place. Why? Cause I see some ladies tonight that should be having my baby. Baby.
You're welcome for that. Irene warns her father of the goblins, and he orders that the castle guards be doubled. This doesn't stop one of the goblins' pets from sneaking in and attacking Princess Irene. Who manages to escape through the magic door and visits her grandmother.
I thought you were giving me the thread.
I am. And you've still got it. I've tied it to your ring. Use it when you're in trouble. You'll find your own magic if you just follow the thread.
We then cut to Curdy, who is sneaking, i.e. stumbling, back into the Goblin Kingdom.
Oh!
And we are treated to this, amazing line of dialogue. Take a listen.
It's like a village. A goblin village. Oh, this must be where the goblins live.
After a line like that, I'm beginning to think that last fall might have knocked his brain a little loose. Anyway, Curdy once again overhears the Goblin royalty discussing their evil plans, which now include kidnapping Princess Irene, cutting off her toes, and forcing her to marry Prince Froglip. Wow! This film suddenly got quite dark, didn't it? Curdy is then caught, but manages to fight off a few of the goblins by bashing their feet, but is stopped by the Goblin Queen, who is apparently the only one smart enough to wear stone shoes to protect her feet. As a last-ditch effort, Curdy starts to sing, which starts to annoy and drive the goblins crazy, but eventually they seal him into a cave, leaving him to starve to death.
That's all, folks.
Not really. Now while all this is going on, Princess Irene has a dream where her grandmother tells her to follow the string. So she wakes up and does just that. It takes her out of the castle, through the dark forest, down under the ground into the Goblin Kingdom, and right to the cave where Curdy is trapped. She gets him out, and they're almost caught again when they try to steal the Goblin Queen's stone shoes. And here they discover that the Goblin Queen has toes like a normal human would, which raises some very interesting questions that are never answered.
The Queen's shoes.
She's got 6 toes.
Once again, with the help of the magic string, they escape and head back to the castle and through the magic door, where Irene tries to introduce Curdy to her grandmother. But she's nowhere to be seen.
I don't see any grandmother.
She's here somewhere. She's just invisible at the moment.
Your grandmother's invisible?
Yes.
Curdy then tries to warn the guards about the impending goblin attack, but they accidentally knock him out, mistaking him for a goblin.
Guard! Guard! I have to see the king!
Goblins!
Stop! Who goes there?
Shoot it!
Oh!
I'm beginning to see why the people of this kingdom never bothered to tell the king or his knights about the goblin. Shortly afterwards, Ludi, who heads down to the castle wine cellar...
Oh, have another drink. Now don't worry, I know where there's some more.
And now it all makes sense! All the falling down, the falling asleep when supposed to be watching the princess. Looty is a drunk!
Now be quiet, you little ratties. What's the matter? You haven't been at the wine, have you? Drunken little ratties. Now, be quiet, or I'll set the castle cat on you.
The goblins then burst through the cellar floor and have the castle knights on the rope. But then Curdy is awakened by Irene's grandmother, who turns into a bunch of pigeons and pimps off again.
Irene's grandmother.
Yes.
Then you're for real.
I've come to make you better.
I'm beginning to see a running theme here. So, Curdy tells the knights the goblins' weakness.
You have to stamp on their feet. That's the only place you can hurt them. And sing. They can't stand singing.
And helps to save King Papa. And fend off the Goblin Queen with the power of song and the bashing of feet.
At them! Forward! Push her back!
Curdy then rushes to tell Princess Irene the good news, only to discover that she's been kidnapped by Prince Froglip. The goblins, in the meantime, attempt to flood the mines as a way to get their revenge. But the miners have prepared for this and have built a dam, redirecting the water right back into the Goblin Kingdom, flooding it, and probably killing almost all the goblins. And inadvertently flooding the castle! Something tells me that their taxes might go up. As the castle walls burst from the flooding, Cordy and Irene manage to fight off Prince Froglip and send him falling over the broken castle wall to his death. We shall miss you, Prince Froglip. You were the only saving grace for this film. I weep for you. I truly do. I deeply sympathize. I need a moment. Thank you. The film then ends with the surviving characters singing, and that's that. Was it a good film? Not really. And apparently the public thought so as well, seeing as how that it had a budget of $10 million and a box office of only $2 million. It also had to compete with The Lion King, which was released the same year. Go figure. But enough about the film. Let's talk about the book that it's based on. The Princess and the Goblin was released published, I should say, in 1872 by George MacDonald. George MacDonald was a pioneering figure in the field of fantasy literature and the mentor to fellow writer Lewis Carroll. His writings have been cited as major literary influences on many notable authors, including C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, and E. Nesbit. Now, C.S. Lewis once wrote that he regarded MacDonald as his master. That's some high praise for you right there. The book has quite a few religious elements that's left out of the movie, and actually has a sequel to it called Princess and Curdy, which has a rather depressing ending where Curdy and the Princess Irene are later married and rule the kingdom after the king dies. However, they have no children, and after they both die, the kingdom deteriorates until one day it collapses and has never been spoken of again. So, on that cheery note, I bring this episode of Animation Triad to an end. As for our next episode, I promise you that you will certainly find the premise a bit more interesting than this film's, because we will be focusing on a cartoon from the early 90s called Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Until next time, I'm Stu, and this has been Animation Triad.
You know, Stuart's right. This is really calming. It's very earthy, too. I kind of appreciate it. Not so much the worms trying to dig into my side, but still, it's pretty good. What do you say, Alex? Alex? Oh.